Hey, thanks for tuning in. I wanted to make something from Dark Souls and I was torn between multiple ideas. But when I think of some of the most memorable boss fights for me, Yhorm definitely stood out, even though he was kind of a pushover. I wanted to make his throne area with the burned bodies and treasure lining the staircase with the rounded stone walls behind him. I cut out some giant-sized stairs out of XPS foam, and I printed the throne. All the STLs are linked down below. To make these stairs look ancient, I roughed them up with a tinfoil ball and a texture roller. This foam takes texture really well and leaves an imprint of anything you push into it. I then glued all the stairs together with some hot glue. I feel like instead of explaining what I'm doing here, which is mostly gluing, we can get into some lore of who Yhorm the Giant actually is. Yhorm wasn't a brute. He came from a bloodline of conquerors, and he inherited that strength. He was a giant, towering, unstoppable, and built for war. And in time he conquered a people who hated and feared him. Strangely, these people later asked him to rule. Maybe they thought his strength could protect them, but even as they handed him the crown, they never let go of their resentment. When they called him Lord, it wasn't out of respect, it was a bitter joke. No matter what he did, they never saw him as anything but a monster. Yhorm tried to win their trust. He gave them a weapon, the Storm Ruler. It was a sword only meant to kill giants. One he kept for himself, and the other he handed to the very people who doubted him. A show of humanity, or maybe guilt. There's a lot more to Yhorm's story that I'll continue throughout the video, but I wanted to talk more about my personal connection with Dark Souls. I was around 11 or 12 years old when Dark Souls 3 went on sale in the PlayStation Store, and I love Skyrim and anything related to fantasy, so I downloaded it. And for the record, at the time, I've never heard of Dark Souls, so I had no idea what I was getting into. My friend who knew I got it was very excited to play it with me. And my first playthrough was mostly him tanking the bosses and speeding through the game, and to be honest, I don't really remember my first run of Dark Souls very well. But maybe 1 or 2 years later, I picked it back up again because I was bored and wanted to play it on my own, and this was the playthrough that I remember the most. It was like my first run never happened because I remember almost none of it. Discovering Dark Souls 3 on my own was truly one of the most mind-blowing experiences for me. I didn't know how good it actually was until I played it again. The world building was so interesting, and they put you in a dying state of an already broken world. It felt like there were so many pieces of the past to put back together. If you've never played a Souls game before, or a Dark Souls for that matter, because you hear how hard it is and unforgiving for the player, just give it a few hours. Because the self-discipline that it builds and the feeling of finally killing that boss you've been stuck on is really some of the best parts of the game. Anyways, Dark Souls has been on my mind ever since I started making these dioramas. Monster Hunter ones are still coming, and depending on the feedback of this video, more Souls as well. Now let's return to the story of Yhorm. At one point, Yhorm fought with the Great Shield, a protector, a leader, but that changed. He lost someone close to him. We don't know who, but it broke something in him. After that, he gave up the shield, gave up on protecting anyone. Instead, he reworked his giant machete, adding a second handle so he could wield it with both hands. It wasn't a weapon for defending others anymore. It was heavy, brutal, and personal. Then came the Profane Flame, a cursed fire that sparked from deep beneath the capital, born of a woman's curse. This flame did not burn wood or stone, it only incinerated human flesh. It spread slow and relentless. In Yhorm City, his people were the only ones caught in it. He tried to stop it, but he couldn't. In the world of Dark Souls, the first flame is the thing that keeps the Age of Fire going. It keeps light, life, and order from fading into the darkness. But when that flame starts dying, someone has to relink it, sacrifice themselves to become fuel. That's what it means to be Lord of Cinder. It's painful, permanent, and there's no coming back from it. And Yhorm did it. He linked the fire, not for glory or power, but to try and stop the profane flame from spreading any further. But even in that sacrifice, his people still doubted him. They always did. And in the end, they were right. The profane flame lived on, the city burned, his people died. Yhorm's sacrifice, everything he gave, meant nothing. Eventually, the first flame, the one that keeps the world going, began to fade again, and the Lords of Cinder were pulled from their death to link it once more. Yhorm was among them, but this time he did not answer the call. He stayed in his throne, silent and waiting. He had already failed once, and there was nothing left to fight for. Yhorm's story isn't over. but I'd like to break it up a bit. I'm trying out a few different things in this video, and I want to focus a bit less on the process itself, for it's very similar in every video I make, and I don't want it to get monotonous. If this is your first time checking me out, my other videos go more in depth on the process if you're interested. In the past, when I mentioned brief lore drops about Monster Hunter monsters, it was more like fun facts, but when I'm doing this video for the voiceover, I just couldn't reduce it to giving fun facts about Yhorm without the full context of his character. I'm so passionate about the lore for these games, and I hope that this video can give more insight into these characters for the more casual Souls fan or someone who's never played before. Since this video is a bit of a switch up from the previous ones, I'd seriously appreciate some feedback on what I did better and what I did worse. It really helps me to learn what you guys want to see. There's a bunch of little people that hold up Yhorm's throne that I need to insert into the base of it. In my opinion, Yhorm's design is one of the coolest out of any Souls boss. And also, he's supposed to have 2 red glowing eyes in his dark cowl, which I was going to paint his face black, leaving 2 glowing eyes exposed, but I didn't want to ruin it, and thought the glowing face hole would look cooler. I touched up some of the clear exposed bits black before dry brushing the black over his orange skin to give him a charred look. Once he looked charred enough, I painted some gunmetal for a base coat all over his armor and chainmail. Then going in with shining silver as a highlight. For his little banner thing on his chest, I base coated with night sky. And for the worn cloak around his neck, I went in with some onyx skin. For what I think is his jewelry piece, I coated it in true copper. And I went in with a few highlights. The process for painting the rest of his body was pretty much the same formula. For those of you who have played Souls games before, which I'd assume is a lot of you if you clicked on a Yhorm video, let me know what your favorite boss fight was and why. I could turn it into a diorama. For me, my all-time #1 boss fight is Slave Knight Gale, and I'll admit that I'm a D1 Gale glazer, and I've already had serious plans to make his diorama and what it would look like. I could go on and on about that fight. I'll elaborate more on the full story of Gale in another video, and I'll probably repeat some of the points I say here, but the setting, music, lore implications, and the story from Dark Souls 1 coming full circle is the pinnacle of not only Dark Souls, but any game I've ever played. It was so incredible to me, to the point where I loaded a backup save on my PS5 so when I beat him I could fight him again and again. If From Software knows anything, it knows how to do a good DLC, cause they go all out every single time. For this throne, and any stone for that matter, I usually apply the same fundamentals of dry brushing gradients of darker grays to white, followed by an airbrush of a dark wash. I glued all the components together, and Yhorm was done. His face glowed exactly as I wanted it to, but the chest was a little dimmer than I'd hoped for, but in the pitch black it's still noticeable. I primed the main base matte black, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I always love to experiment with buildings, because most of the stuff that I make is hills, rock formations, and anything naturally forming, and crafting a man-made structure is more of a challenge. The left and right sides of the staircase is meant to be a pile of burned rubble and charred corpses, so I start by painting them with different shades of red as a base. I highlighted with some scarlet and even a bright orange. I picked out the little shield bits with some silver. And the random beads for treasure I picked out with copper and gold. With different green and brown washes, I painted random individual bricks to add some variation to the stonework. and I heavily dry brushed all of the red with black. I printed out a little Sigurd, and while I paint him, we can wrap up Yhorm's story. For all of Yhorm's failures, there was one person who hadn't abandoned him. His name was Sigurd of Katarina. Yhorm once saved Sigurd's life, and in return, he made a promise. If Yhorm ever lost himself, if he ever became a threat, Sigurd would be the one to stop him. And when that time came, Sigurd kept that promise, not as an enemy, but as a friend. Sigurd can help you alongside your fight with Yhorm. Yhorm says nothing when you face him. No words and no speech, just silence. A giant with nothing left, swinging out of instinct. When he falls, it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like a mercy. His throne still sits in the ashen ruins of the profane capital. He was mocked, feared, and abandoned, but even so, Yhorm gave everything to protect a people who never truly saw him as one of their own. Not a monster, not a tyrant, just a man who tried and failed, to do what was right. Sigurd passed away shortly after the fight. It isn't clear whether it was from his wounds or his duty being fulfilled, but Yhorm's story stands as one of the most tragic in all of Dark Souls. And if you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe. It seriously means a lot, and let me know what you want me to make next. Thank you for watching.
Yhorm, old friend. I, Secret of the Knights of Katarina, have come to uphold my promise. Sun shine upon this Lord of Cinder. Long may the sun shine.